下一個議程呢就係
Next item, progress update of the XRL, and the paper has been issued to members earlier. So, under Secretary, please walk us through the item, and then there will be a PowerPoint presentation by the MTLCL. Chairman, we are now reporting to members of the subcommittee the quarterly progress report as at the 31st of March 2015 concerning the XRL. I understand that recently, because of some media reports, the public have been very concerned about the XRL Hong Kong section's progress and also the possible cost overrun. So I'll be deferring to the MTLCL, which will be reporting to you the latest progress. Well, in May 2014, the MTLCL came up with a revised schedule. That is, it will be commissioned by the end of 2017, and according to that target commissioning data, the Highways Department has been monitoring the progress of the works, and in recent months, the Highways Department and the M&V consultant noticed that, there have been some delay of works in certain contracts, and the situation is getting more serious, and we have expressed serious concerns of the successive delays experienced and whether or not the MTLCL would be able to complete the project in accordance with the revised work schedule. And we have also asked the MTLCL to step up measures in order to recover the delays, and the MTLCL has said that it would be exploring further measures and it would be catching up. And then as at the end of March this year, if you look at the overall progress of the Hong Kong section of the XRL, it's about 68% when compared to the revised schedule, which is about 74%, is still there is still a delay. So given the latest progress figures, the overall situation is getting worse. So it has already reached a very critical state, and there is possible further delays. And if it's not able to catch up effectively, then the target date for commissioning in end of 2017 might not be achievable. Concerning the cost estimate, the MTLCL last year, that is 2014, in July, it told the government that with regard to the entrustment works, the latest estimate is about $71 billion, and we have already urged the MTLCL to look at its independent board panel to review the latest entrustment works estimate, and the MTLCL is now reviewing the revised entrustment estimates, and the estimates might show a significant rise in cost. As the MTLCL has not completed its estimate, it's not appropriate for us to comment on that yet. Chairman, the government understands the concern of the public on the progress and also further cost overruns, and we are also very concerned about that. That's why we are asking the MTLCL to come up with the details, and the MTLCL intends to do that within this quarter, that is before the end of June, so that it would come up with a revised work schedule and also the revised estimates and also the details. I understand that the revised estimates will have to be approved by the board of the MTLCL before it can be submitted to the government. And before we receive the formal review results, we will conduct a very detailed review ourselves concerning the revised entrustment estimates and the review. Well, in terms of the project, we have to complete the project. There will be an estimate on that, and that has not included the liability on the delay. We will assess the progress of the works and also the delays experienced and also the liability for cost overrun. We will reserve the power to go after the MTLCL for any liabilities. I'll now defer to the MTLCL, which will do a PowerPoint presentation on the progress.
Dr. Wong, I will ask Mr. Simon Tang to do the presentation. Thank you. I would like to report to members about the progress for the period ending the 31st of March 2015. Now here you can see the completed area. The orange plot is the excavated part, and the lining has not been completed. This will be a 26 kilometer alignment, and the excavation is completed by over 90%, and only 2.1 kilometers have not been excavated. As for the yellow parts, they are the critical contracts, 826, 8238, and 8108. Up to the end of March this year, for civil engineering and EMO works completed by 73.5% and 48% respectively. As for the overall completion rate, is 68.7%, 5% behind. For the critical contracts, the most important part, 8108, as for West Kowloon Terminus excavation, satisfactory, completed by 88%. As for the bedrock excavation, completed by 24%. And to the north of the terminus, we will be doing blasting, and we will be doing B4 excavation. As for concrete works, completed by 48%, is still lags behind. We have been talking to the contractor to increase manpower so as to recover the delay. Lincheng Road northbound line is now closed so that we can carry out the relevant works. As for the West Kowloon Terminus underground works, now there are still challenges. Lately, we have been using blasting and closing Lincheng Road, so now the progress has been improved. The major challenge is the steel works at the roof, and the engineering risks are more serious than we expected. As for the roof structure, it's very complicated. First of all, we need to erect temporary steelworks, and then we would have to put together permanent steelworks, and then there will be large-scale concrete works. Eventually, we will put on steel plates and glass panes. So for the whole steelworks, it's divided into 9 parts, and the highest one is 45 meters. They are huge structures. So we need about 12,000 tons of steel and 3,700 glass panes. As for aluminium planes, we need over 10,000 of them. Up to the end of March this year, as for the temporary and permanent steel structure, they are completed by 45% and 60% respectively. There is a delay. As for the red part, it's the temporary steel structure. Is used for supporting the construction of the permanent steel works. And when you see the rooftop, there are a lot of difficulties because the components and shape, the components of different sizes and shapes, and they have to be fabricated in a very accurate manner. It takes a lot of time to make them. In the past 2 years, the contractors have encountered different problems in this area. For example, they need to find up-to-standard workshops to fabricate such components. And when they prepare manufacturing plans, there are problems. Well, because this is very complicated, the contractor has looked for extra fabrication yards on the mainland and overseas, and also we have sent more people to the sites. We hope that the manufacturing process can be smoother. As for the terminus site, we are now assembling the components, and precision is very important. A slight difference would affect the future roof structure. Up to now, the progress in this area is not ideal. The contractor is looking at possible measures to recover the delay. When we look at the progress now, these parts of the works may be behind schedule significantly, and this is critical for the commissioning date. As for contract 823A Yuen Long Chasing Kong to Tai Kong Po tunnel section. Now 2 tunnel boring machines are working. As for the southbound part, the progress is a bit slow, but it's not seriously behind schedule. We are continuing to monitor the situation. As for the southbound line and both the southbound and northbound lane, now they are completed, and now we are working on the connecting section, and we are laying the relevant cables. As for contract 826 cross-boundary tunnels, the 2 tunnel boring machines have already left these areas, and now they are moving towards Maipo shaft. As for the southbound part, 36% have been completed, northbound 58%. As for these 2 machines, they are now working behind schedule. The main reason is that for these 2 tunnel boring machines, they have encountered unexpected mechanical breakdowns. They have to be maintained, and that took quite a long time. And we have also encountered an unexpected sludge situation, so that's why the progress has been slowed down. As for this contract delay, it will also have a very significant impact on the commissioning date. After talking about the 3 critical contracts, now let us look at the northern part, and we look at the other contracts. Contract 823 Maipo to Altamay tunnel section. All the tunnels have been excavated. Now we are laying the tracks, and we are building the connecting pathways. The progress is satisfactory. Contract 823 Altamay to Tai Kong Po tunnel section is already been connected in the first quarter of this year. It is a major milestone for this contract. However, for the contract earlier on, there has been delays concerning tunnel lining because there was a lack of manpower. When we look at the present progress, it will have a major impact on track laying. So for this contract, it will be another critical contract. The MTRCL has already asked the contractor to follow up closely. Contract 823B Shek Kong train station, an emergency station. Now most of the buildings have been completed, and now we are installing the E&M facilities. The Fire Services Department in February and March this year, they conducted an inspection. Contract 822 Che Ok Chun to Sat Yam tunnel section. In March, the 3.6 kilometer tunnel has finished excavation, and the tunnel lining has been completed. Now we are laying the track. Contract 823 Sat Yam to Malay Road tunnel section. The ventilation building and its topside greening works are completed. Contract 820 Malay Road to Hoiting Road tunnel section. We have cut and refill, and now we are installing the cables. Contract 811A ventilation building. Most of the buildings have been completed. Now we are installing the E&M facilities. Contract 810B. The structural works have been completed by over 80%. As for the lateral supports at level B3, 95% have been completed. PTI and cabling works, now they are being carried out. Contract A10B, West Kowloon Terminus South, the concrete works are completed by 84%. As for Austin Road underground carriageway, the excavation and concreting works have been completed by 52% and 23%. E&M works. Cable and track laying. The contractor has started to work on 68% of the 26 kilometer line. Now they are following closely the progress. The E&M contractor has enhanced its resources and more machines are now added to the project. As for the tunnel section and the Shakong building, now they are installing E&M tool instruments and testings are being carried out. Summary. Contract A23A. After repairing the tunnel boring machines, the progress is now satisfactory and it will not affect the excavation of the whole project. Contract A24, tunnel lining, still behind schedule. The contractor is trying to find a solution. Contract A26, north-southbound lanes, they are behind schedule. Contract A10A, in the northern part of B4, we are doing blasting. As for topside structures, we are facing a lot of problems, and they are critical for the completion of the whole project. Now, for A10A, A24, and A26, they are still behind schedule. If we want to have the commissioning date by the end of 2017, we think there will be severe problems. Thank you. Now it's time for members to ask questions. Hon Claudia MO, Gary Fang, Kwok Kee, Lena Wong, Lo Wai Kok, Priscilla Leung, Lee Chak Yan, Michael Tian, Chen Hangpan, Wu Chi Wai. Who else? 4 minutes each. Wong Kwok Heng. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, for the XRL, one thing is very critical. That is the co-location of clearance services or custom services. Now, the CE, before the Executive Council meeting today, he said that there is a task force in the government that is focusing on this issue. On this occasion here, I would like to ask the Undersecretary. Now you are talking about the co-location of customs clearance. And what's the progress? Do you have confidence that when the XRL is commissioned, we will already have all the legal procedures completed and we will truly have co-location of customs clearance? I hope the government can answer my question. And then I will ask another question about the seriously delayed contracts. Mr. Yao, from Mr. Wong's question, that is, now that the government has an interdepartmental group looking at the co-location of customs clearance. Actually, it's not just about Hong Kong. It involves our counterparts on the mainland. So they are discussing with us. Because this is not just about Hong Kong's own operation or Hong Kong's own laws. It also involves the mainland. So the relevant people from both sides of the border have to be engaged in the talk. The Secretary has visited Beijing and talked to the relevant ministry. In particular, it has talked to the border facilities body because we are talking about two major issues here. First, the legal framework. What should the arrangement be? And second, the design of the border facilities. So all these discussions are underway. So while we are discussing all this, I don't think I can share the details with you. But if we are more towards the finalized stage, then we will explain to members and the public. Now we are doing the work, and our goal is that when the XRL is commissioned, the co-location will be implemented. I have another question. Just now, you talked about 3 critical contracts. And you say that they are in dire straits. There are serious delays. So what would the government's solution be? With regard to the critical projects delays, we are closely liaising with the MTRCL. We urge them to come up with recovery solutions.
And one of the problems is with the steel structure. As you can see, when it comes to the fabrication of such a steel structure, there was a delay, and that's why we've been pressing the MTRCL, for example. Well, it has increased the number of workshops for such a fabrication. That's why we hope that they can catch up with the delays. Claudia MO, obviously, we have already got started, and it's hard to allow it to end like this, and there might be further cost overrun. We should be prepared for an ultimate spending of over $100 billion. So you will have to at least make sure that it's a high-speed rail, or else without co-location of immigration facilities, it would just be an ordinary rail. So my question for the administration is, okay, you have this suggestion that Beijing would be authorizing Hong Kong enforcement agencies so that they would be setting aside an area for the enforcement of mainland legislation. This will be very scary because you don't have to be a lawyer to imagine that whether it's about state secret, national security, immigration and exit laws and so on, well, it all boils down to the fact that the mainland system is very different from that in Hong Kong. All right, if you have a T-shirt with the words "Don't forget about June 4th," then it will be banned on the mainland, but then it's okay in Hong Kong. So once you open the floodgate, you are actually abandoning the one country, two systems yourselves. It's very dangerous. All right, today they can authorize you, but then today they can take it away, and then furthermore, they can also give you more powers, and then you can also be authorized to make arrests. So are you going to do it or not? This is very perilous. So my question for the administration is, will you seriously consider doing that on board of the train, so that for the immigration checkpoint and the clearance procedures, can those be done on board of the train? Just forget about the Futian station, so that in terms of the speed, that might help. Can you consider this? Yes, Undersecretary. Chairman, I agree with what Ms. Mo just said, in the sense that if the XRL is not able to achieve the maximum effect or optimal effect, then in terms of the effectiveness to Hong Kong, that would be affected. And precisely because of this, we believe that at the West Kowloon terminus, we have to have co-location of immigration facilities before we can achieve the optimal effect. And then conceptually, the co-location of immigration facilities is very clear. That would allow the immigration officers from the mainland to come to the SAR and apply some of the mainland laws, including quarantine, immigration, and customs laws. Well, this is just a concept, but then in reality, how can that be executed under the constitution set up in Hong Kong? As I just explained, the two sides will have to work together. In particular, the legal experts will have to think about it so that they can come up with a package which would be in line with the concept of one country, two systems and the basic law. And at the same time, we can allow them to enforce the law here. So this is a complex task, and it also takes time to sort out the things. What you're just talking about a space or a place, but then my question is, would you consider allowing them to do that on board of the train? Well, I've noticed that in particular in recent days and weeks, there have been different ideas proposed in the community. And of course, they would have reference value to the government. And we'll see whether they are feasible. And one of the possibilities is that we're traveling to a very short distance. Well, it takes 14 minutes to go to Shenzhen. Would that be possible to do what Ms. Mo just suggested? So that's something that has to be considered very carefully, but then I would not be commenting on that further. Yes, Gary Fan. Thank you, Chairman. In the paper, you talk about the major challenges, and you did not even mention co-location of immigration facilities. In fact, in 2008, in this council, we already made it clear one of the core issues would be legal issues. Would you be able to do co-location of immigration facilities? If that cannot be done, then that would not be high-speed rail, and you will not be able to get anything out of that, and the most expensive railway project would become just a waste. All right, in 2010, we already agreed that the construction period would be 7 years, and you have already taken 5 years, and there are only 2 years to go, and still you're not able to answer the question of co-location. And we only have the Undersecretary here, not the Bureau Director, Anthony Chiang. Why are you not able to answer the question? In fact, early this month, I wrote to Anthony Chiang asking the THB to come up with the same set of paper, because in 2009, when you applied for the Hong Kong section of the XRL, you talk about the operational feasibility, you did an assessment, and I asked the administration to answer the question, have you ever thought about doing it again? Because at the time you said that the XRL, you expected that during the 50-year operational period, it would yield some $87 billion cost benefit, and well, some said that it would be up to $90 billion. Well, you did not say so. You are not willing to come up with an estimate. You are not willing to come up with the cost estimate. Would that be $100 billion or what? If it's already $100 billion, then the economic benefit would already be overcome. So if it costs some $120 billion, and then if you stop that altogether, then the cost would just be $50 or $60 billion. Then the Hong Kong people, the SL government, and the Hong Kong people should not spend another $60 or $70 billion to fill in the gap. This would be a very rational way to go about it. I think this is the most expensive project ever in Hong Kong, and this is also a very important scandal for this council, because this project, why has the administration not considered doing this assessment on the operational feasibility to deal with this tremendous difficulty right now? And some members have been criticizing this. I'll have to make it clear. All right, the New People's Party, Michael Tian, is suggesting that we will have to amend the basic law so that mainland authorities can come over to Hong Kong to enforce the law. I think that would be that would undermine the one country, two systems. And then instead of upholding our system, they are saying that the system is right. And even Ming Pao's editorial also said the same thing today. I think this is totally unacceptable. We spend so much money on building the XRL, and yet in the end we have this insurmountable problem, because in 2008 we already said that this is a legal problem that cannot be resolved, and somebody is suggesting that we should undermine the one country, two systems, and they're actually trying to enable the government to deal with this bottomless pit, and they're trying to make this up for the government. This is totally undesirable. So can the Undersecretary tell us? In fact, Claudia MO already asked this. What are you doing right now with regard to the negotiation on co-location of immigration facilities? What is the progress? Or if it's going to be separate, in other words, there will be no co-location, then what about the economic benefit? Would that be reduced from $87 billion to how much? Can you answer the question? I think there are two parts to Gary Fan's questions. One, we are fully aware of the fact that the effectiveness of the XRL would depend on the implementation of co-location of immigration facilities. That's why we are working full steam to see how that can be implemented. That's one part of it. On that premise, we are of the view that if we can do that, then that would also bring about economic benefit. That's beyond doubt. As to the second part of the question about the cost, well, for the XRL itself, last year, they gave us a figure, $71.52 billion. And in their annual report, they said that there might be a need to substantially increase that, but then they haven't really come up with a specific figure. That's why we still have to wait for their final estimates. Only then would we be able to seriously look at their figures to see if they are justifiable, because as far as the government is concerned, we cannot just trust and accept what they say. But then when are you going to get a figure? In 2017? If you're not going to do the feasibility study now, when are you going to do that? How long would it take? KK Kwok, Chairman, just now listening to Mr. Tang and the Undersecretary, apparently it looks like the XRL has only been submitted to this council today. Well, for the co-location of immigration facilities is a breach of the basic law, and there is no implementation package whatsoever. But then in 2006, you already decided that, and in 2007, the EXCO said that you would have to press ahead with that, and then in 2008, you entrusted the project to MTRCL. Or it has taken you more than 3 years, and still the MTRCL had no idea as to what needed to be done. They did not do any site investigation, so apparently the soil is too hard, so you're blaming it on the ground conditions. So this whole thing, up till now, has become that we have yet to see any end to it. So you have an unshakable responsibility. Specifically, I have 3 questions. All right, we have the Undersecretary here, or even if the Director is here. Well, concerning the MTRCL incurring such a huge loss, and also as far as the community is concerned, you have actually shortchanged them, and they've got themselves deep in the quagmire, so you should have seriously apologized. And also for the MTRCL, well, you've now encountered so many problems. Why is it that you only knew about it today? Back in 2008, you said that you would do it. Was it that you had not done enough or sufficient site investigation, and also for the site investigation reports? Was it that you did not do it at all? Was it that you just went ahead because you were under pressure from the government? Because apparently the government is trying to pass the buck on to the MTRCL. You've actually deducted project management costs from them. So I'd like to ask the MTRCL, would you be prepared to become the scapegoat? And if not, then should the government be held liable? And the third question is for the government. Apparently, this is a very complicated problem. I do not see how the Highways Department has been doing its job as the monitor of the project, or that it has helped us. So is it that you did not have sufficient talents and expertise to do it? So up till now, would you be apologizing for this? And what's most important is that after the incident, would you be engaging an independent engineering expert to help the Highways Department to take a fresh look into this? Because we are most concerned about safety issue. And if we came up with a jerry building project, then if there are casualties, then that would not be something that the Hong Kong people would like to see.
Undersecretary, I'll answer the first question. Well, from the Bureau's perspective, the construction of the XRL has to pay attention to 2 points in terms of public interest. First of all, we have to implement the collocation of boundary facilities so that we can serve the people well, and then we also have to keep the costs under control. And we should minimize the burden on the taxpayers. The government is doing exactly these 2 things. We haven't finished our work yet. We are still endeavoring. The MTRCL will be monitoring the situation, and we will come up with the latest figures and timetable for us, and we will continue to be the gatekeeper. As for the other 2 questions, I'll ask the MTRCL and the Director to answer. As for the XRL projects, in particular the West Kowloon Terminus, well, they are of huge scale and is underground, so that's why it's very complicated. The MTRCL worked in accordance with its past experience and the market situation, and we make a judgment concerning the time frame. However, there are some changes in the environment, and also there are unexpected ground conditions, so that's why the project has been significantly affected. We already have a lot of experienced people who are doing ground investigation for us. However, due to the geological situation, we would not know the actual exact problems until we are up to that stage. Ms. Helena Wong, just now Mr. Gary Fan mentioned a few points which are outrageous. And I think the Hong Kong government and the MTRCL should be reprimanded. Now, for the collocation of immigration facilities, I think the Hong Kong people do not want to see mainland security officers carrying out their duties in Hong Kong. Hong Kong people cannot accept that. Now, you have been working on this project for a number of years, and a lot of works have been done, and we do not want to see a railway line unfinished. Yes, there are a lot of disputes now, and the majority of the works have been completed. So can we just stop here? Now you have the responsibility to solve the problem of collocation, but I haven't heard any solution so fast. Mr. James To said that we do not want mainland officers discharging their duties here. So can we ask our own people to do the work? Well, when it comes to arresting people, of course, Hong Kong police won't do that. So after crossing the border, the mainland officers will do that. So we are trying to come up with pragmatic ways to solve the problem. I don't understand why Gary Fan said that we are being too soft. Now, do we want to see the whole project aborted? I think that's really not a responsible manner. I think he's distorted Mr. James To's suggestion. If this is not the best solution, the government should come up with better solutions. I don't think people should be venting their anger here. Now, the government should look at things very carefully. That is, can Hong Kong enforce the law? And for the West Kowloon terminus, I'm very concerned about Lin Chuan Road. Now you've closed it off. And the vehicles would have to use that access in the future if they want to go to the terminus and the WKCD. So I'm worried about noise pollution. Will there be full noise enclosures? There are a number of residential buildings there. So will the residents be affected? Because a lot of vehicles will be going there, and so it will get much more noisier. Because now they are already suffering. The construction sites has been there for years, and they are saying that there are a lot of mosquitoes. So not only PRH would suffer from mosquito problem, even luxury flats would also suffer the same problem. And would you have full noise enclosures? And also for the ventilation openings, can they be placed at an area farther away from the residential area? And how about a barrier-free access leading to the West Kowloon terminus? If they cannot answer me right now, they should provide me with an answer in writing later. Now for the XRL, they want an underground tunnel connected to the elements. And now they have to go up to a footbridge to do that. But when the elements was designed, the designer didn't expect so many people would go there with their luggage. Well, for Ms. Wong's question, yes, I agree with her on one point. That is, we do not want to see the project aborted. So we are trying to be pragmatic. We want to come up with solutions. I think this is something we should appreciate. Some people have suggested solutions for the co-location of immigration facilities. I also appreciate that. Mr. Lo Wai Kwok, when I look at the slides, slide number 3, it's about the percentage of project completion. When we look at the figures, we are not that worried. For the overall project completion rates, originally it should be 73.7% now, and now it's 68.7%. But when we look at the actual situation, there are some serious bottlenecks. Slide 15 shows where the problem lies. That is the West Kowloon terminus. Now, eventually, will it be 85 billion or 100 billion? Well, guessing doesn't get us anywhere. I think it's most important to ask the government, the MTLCL, and the contractors to recover the delay. If there is further delay, when will the actual commissioning dates be, and what is the exact cost? I think we have seen a clue here. If you look at the paper 954-07, there's a table there. It says that there are 660 claim cases, and the amount is 14.6 billion, and you have paid 2.5 billion already, but there are so a lot under disputes. Now, because of the project delay and because of the changes, the MTLCL would it be arguing with the contractor? So that's why there is this serious delay. Are you still working in a harmonious manner, or are you arguing with the contractors? So that's why there are major delays. Chairman, I understand that there are a lot of rumors about figures, and these figures are different from the figure put forward by the MTLCL, that is $71.5 billion. MTLCL is discussing with the contractors about all sorts of possible arrangements. They are coordinating, and I hope that they can do a better job in cost control. And rumors do not help, so that's why we do not want to comment on those rumors. I would like to ask the MTLCL to answer Mr. Low's questions. That is, how are you working with the contractors? Now, for the whole of the XLL projects, there are some critical contracts. And of course, there are technical problems and unexpected ground conditions. The major problem is that the project has now been delayed for quite a long time, and contractors may argue because now the construction period is lengthened, so the construction cost will go up. On a contract, that is a mechanism to weigh different stakeholders' responsibilities. Yes, a lot of time has been spent on arguments, and MTLCL is asking the contractors to work together. We should prioritize the work. That is, the completion date is very important, and we are trying to put other arguments aside first. For project delay, I definitely cannot accept it. In the future, there may be a lot of claims. But I want to talk about the collocation of immigration facilities. Is it a political problem or a legal problem? I've heard members talking about it. Do we have to use Chinese laws and Chinese quarantine rules? Now, we have to stick to the basic law, and it has to be constitutional. As for collocation of boundary control facilities, we have to look at Article 95 of the Basic Law. It says that for the SAR and the other judiciary departments in China, they have to cooperate. So this is not something new. There are many examples overseas, and we can learn from them. For example, the UK and France, they belong to different legal system, common law and continental law. However, the two governments can still cooperate, and they can carry out customs clearance on a train. And if you go from Vancouver to the U.S., at the airports, there are 3 U.S. counters. So if you want to fly to the U.S., you can check in there. And there are also other domestic counters. As for the American counters, they are manned by American officers. The U.S. and Canada are different jurisdictions, and one country has capital punishment, the other does not. So it doesn't mean that the officers, when they are physically there, they would have to enforce the Canadian laws. They actually enforce the American laws, and they enforce the law on behalf of the U.S. government, because this is international law principles. And also, if you look at embassies, they exist in other countries, on other countries' land, but for their airplanes, ships, and vehicles, if they use their own flags, and if you aboard their car, then you are already within the jurisdiction of the other country. So because that's why some people would flee to other countries' embassies, because they are on the other country's soil then, and they would be under another jurisdiction. In Hong Kong, we do not have this problem. At West Kowloon, we can set up counters. There will be no problems. And you can make it more complicated. You can do it on a train, but it's not that convenient. And Hong Kong officers will not want to enforce the mainland laws on their behalf.
So they would also have reservation allowing Hong Kong immigrant officers to enforce their laws. So we will have to apply these judicial principles in doing this. So it's not a problem at all, so long as we can take a serious look into that. It's not difficult to resolve. But then, of course, politically, we would call upon the opposition members not to object to that. Because why do we have one country, two systems? Well, even in the U.S. with 2 countries and 2 systems, they are still able to resolve it. All right, in Hong Kong's case, politically, I think we can resolve the problem. So there is no insurmountable problem. So under one country, 2 systems, we will have to embark on that track, and the XRL is in line with the overall trend. Next, Michael Tian. Chairman, a couple of points that I have to make, and then I'd like to ask some questions. This so-called checking on board of the train, and if you take a look at the details and also the geographical situation, then it's just like Arabic Nights, because you will have to cross the Shenzhen River before you can start the check. All right, from WKT to Futian, it would take just 14 minutes. So I do not see how, with 600 passengers on board of the train, you can implement the immigration clearance, and the immigration and the customs and excise can also check the luggage. So how can that be done? So even if you just abandon or miss the Futian station, even if you go to Shenzhen North or Shenzhen South, it will still take just 15 minutes. You will still not be able to complete the checking of all the 600 passengers. And then within Hong Kong, if we were to implement national laws, Article 18 of the basic law says that if it involves national security, that can be done. So I cannot see why border control is not part of national security. So I think this is something that we can discuss. So we should not just wave it away, saying that it's not feasible. Even the pan-democrats say that we can consider it. So I think this is the most pragmatic way forward, and there is every potential that we should look into it. So we are still talking about exploring the feasibility of it. So my next question would be for the MTRCL or the government. I believe that most people would feel like this when it comes to cost overrun. it would have been a lot stronger than whether it's going to be commissioned in 2017 or 18. Well, for the government and also the MTRCL, it's a question of reputation. But then for the majority of the public, I don't know. Well, many people would say that, all right, well, don't spend too much on that. We don't want to see cost overruns to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, MIPO, delay of 3 months, and then the WKT, the blasting is only 28% complete, and then for the ingress of the terminus, there is serious delay, and because of the permanent steel structure, is only 16% complete. Well, looking at the paper, well, the contractor would be deploying more people on bar bending and so on. And then there would be extra workshops for the manufacturing in order to tie in with the progress. Well, Chairman, does it cost anything? Where does the money come from? It would cost some money. In other words, if you want to recover the delay so that you can commission in 2017, it means that after the injection, there will still be problems. So apparently, they will still not be able to achieve that commissioning date, even if you inject a lot more money into it. So have you done any estimate? All right, for these incidents, if you do not recover the delay, so that would also reduce the chance that you have to come to this council for cost overrun, then it would be a lot easier for us to consider that. So of course, I don't want serious cost overrun, and if you do not inject money into that in order to catch up or recover the delay. So have you done any calculation? If you commission it later, then would it mean that the cost overrun would be less serious so that we can strike a balance? Or is it that you're blindly going for the target commissioning date, whatever it takes? Can you answer the question? MTRCL? Or Under Secretary first? Thank you, Chairman. Well, for the critical works that I just referred to, well, for the cross-boundary tunnel, well, it's needed because in terms of the geological conditions, because we have encountered cave-ins, and also for the sludge, and there is a lot there. That's why the problem is more serious. So whatever is the case, we have to overcome that problem first. And then for the WKT, do you have to increase the cost? Because all that would cost more money. Is that right? Well, the difficulty has no direct link with the timing of completion, because it's about the use of the machinery. It will have to be used for longer. So that's about the topography. And also about the WKT, the delay is, as you all know, in terms of the rock structure, we are doing the works more slowly. Well, your time is up. But then he has not responded to my question at all. You will have to wait for the next round. I'll give you 2 minutes. So can you ask him to respond? Well, it's already 5 minutes because they are wasting the time. They have not responded to my questions at all. So I'm asking how much they can save if they do not try to recover the time lost. All right? It's my turn. We all know that for the entire XRL, initially when you design it, and even before you enter into the contract, according to the entrustment agreement reached between the government and the MTRCL, and according to the independent experts, the role in terms of the division of labor was not very clearly delineated. In other words, if you look at the cooperation model, there are some structural problems or inherent problems. And now the role of the MTRCL is rather embarrassing. On the one hand, you have to recover the delays, and on the other hand, you're asking the contractors to do it. But then when the contractors ask you, okay, I'll have to deploy more manpower, I'll have to get more money, and I'll have to recruit more people to do the job, who is going to pay for it? Are you going to pay it? Then you said you will have to go to the government. So the MTRCL's role is very embarrassing. As a supervisor of works, you don't have the power to supervise. And apparently the entire XRL project, well, we don't know yet how much it would cost us. So probably by next month we might have a better idea, and there might be further cost overruns. So it looks like a bottomless pit. So do we have to consider it? Do we have to find out where the bottom is? So should the administration give a sum of money to the MTRCL so that the MTRCL would be directly responsible for managing the contractors, and then the MTRCL will have to be made responsible for the remaining works. So will the administration consider this? This is the first question. And the second question is, all right, on collocation of boundary control facilities. In fact, there should be a deadline. As far as I'm aware, before December, you should come up with a design. So can the government, well, by October, can you come up with a design? Or else, with regard to the entire XRL project, there would be further delays. And if there is a chance that you can come up with the plan by October, then the delay would not have been affected by the failure to come up with the co-location plan. And if you are not able to do that, then you might have to be held responsible for this. So would you be able to come up with a design plan in October? So 2 questions for the government. Mr. Yao? Chairman, on the XRL's cost overrun, how would that be dealt with? I think at this stage, I'm afraid I'm not able to say anything further. Of course, we are also very concerned about the situation, so we will have to wait until the MTRCL is able to come up with a more specific estimate, and it has to be endorsed by its board before it submits it to the government, and then we'll have to think about how we are going to deal with it. Next is about the border or boundary control points design. It would involve 2 levels. One is constitutional, legal, and system. And in fact, we have been talking to our counterparts on the mainland. We believe that the design should be available within this year. Under Secretary, my first question was, would you be giving a sum of money to the MTRCL and then ask it to finish the remaining works, and then if there should be further cost overruns, you should not come to me for further injection, because according to the experts' report, all right, the current structure is inherently problematic. Can you respond to that? Chairman, given the current entrustment agreement, that's not the way it works. If we were to work like that, then it might involve special arrangements. So I don't think I should elaborate on that here. All right, we only have 5 minutes to go. As the chairman can extend the meeting by 15 minutes, we have 3 more members who haven't asked any questions, and 2 would like to ask in the second round. So I'd like to seek your consent if we should extend the meeting by 15 minutes. All agreed? All right, so we'll finish by 1. Next, Lee Chuk-yen. Chairman, this is really a disastrous project. All right, the XRL has become a snail's project. There is nothing that can be done to salvage it, because if you're not able to sort out how the co-location can work, then the rail would just move at snail's speed. And now you're talking about looking into different options and so on. But then, back in 2010 at the FC meeting, we already asked many times about how that can be done, and then Eva Chang said that she would look into it. Just look at it. All right, for the delay of the project, and what we are already very outraged. But then, you've looked into this for 5 years. What have you done? Nothing at all. No solution has been found. So what happened? All right, you started to talk about it in 2010, and you said that you would look into it. But then, you haven't really completed that study. And at the time, Eva Chang said that there would be interim arrangements. So my question is, what are the interim arrangements? No, nothing. If there isn't, then you can only have border or boundary control facilities on both sides. So there will not be any co-location at all. And then the speed would be at snail's pace. And the whole thing is a disaster, because as we have heard, on cost overrun, it's outrageous. All right, $60 billion, and now we're talking about 90 billion, and some said that it would reach 100. So you're not willing to talk about it at all. I'm not going to ask, because you're not able to tell us exactly how much that is. You said that you're doing the calculation, but then obviously it would skyrocket. So it would escalate, but then by what margin? You are not able to tell, because you're not willing to tell us. But then we are sure. With the XRL, originally it cost some $60 billion, and now it's some $90 billion, and then Well, Chairman, you asked who would be footing the bill. We don't know, and it's a bottomless pit. And in the end, nobody knows who is going to foot the bill. Even if the MTRCL is to foot the bill, it's going to be a disaster. Because even if it's the MTRCL footing the bill, then it's the government paying in the end, and then the minor shareholders would also be made to pay. And also, there is this delay in commissioning. So using the famous quote of the Highways Director, he said that slippage does not mean a delay. But then it's been proven that, all right, at least there'll be a 2 years delay. But then you're not sure because you said that the commissioning date of 2017 might not be feasible. There are risks. So we don't know how much it will, how much would the cost overrun be, and when would it be commissioned. So this is really disastrous. And in the end, it is so expensive. So, Undersecretary, how is the government going to be responsible for that? How come for 5 years you still haven't worked out the co-location situation?
Chairman, for co-location arrangements, it is a very sensitive and controversial issue. So when the administration came to LegCo for funding application, we already said that with the commissioning of the XRL, we may not be able to implement co-location right away. That was how we explained to members at that time. And then after that, the government has set up an interdepartmental task force to look at the issue, and is led by the Department of Justice, or the Secretary for Justice. We have looked at different options. There are pros and cons concerning each options. But 5 years have passed. You have looked at all these options for 5 years. And what's the interim arrangement? We are endeavoring to make arrangements for co-location. Article 18 of the Basic Law states very clearly that is, other than national security and diplomacy, other laws of the mainland cannot be implemented in Hong Kong. So we are an autonomous region. So that's why there are so many problems with the enforcement of mainland law in Hong Kong. I am not too wise, so I cannot come up with solutions. But if it is in violation of the basic law and against one country, two systems, I don't think co-location of boundary crossing facilities can be accepted. In Hong Kong, the government has to be very careful. You have to ensure one country, two systems, Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong, and a high degree of autonomy. And we would not open this floodgate. The MTRCL and the government signed an entrustment agreement, and it would expire on the 4th of August 2015. Now, have you signed a new agreement with the MTRCL? Is there a deadline for the project completion? Otherwise, how do you enforce the entrustment agreement? And after the 4th of August, who will shoulder the financial responsibility? Is there a mechanism for financial liabilities? And also, now MTRCL gets over $60 billion. Is there a deadline for them to use up the money, and when do they need to come back to LegCo for further funding application? Now, if they used up that sum of money, and if there is still cost overrun, and before they get further funding, what will the financial arrangements be, so as to ensure that the project can be carried on and all the conditions on the agreements can be complied with? Other Secretary. For Mr. Wu's question, he said that, well, in the entrustment agreement, the original commissioning date or completion date was August 2015. And last year, the government has already said that this is not feasible. And the latest date is the end of 2017. And there's also a revised budget. I have explained to Mr. Wu on various occasions. Now we have this revised program to complete and cost to complete. They are for the projects, and it does not involve warranties and applications. And if there's a cost overrun, who's going to pay for it? Because this involves the liabilities of both sides. But there should be a cap for the project. Is there no cap? Well, let me finish first. The government reserve all the rights to pursue the warranties and obligations from MTRCL. This is our position now. Mr. Christopher Chung. We have Pentamegress here, and this is a disaster for Hong Kong. I don't understand. This is a normal activity, that is co-location of boundary crossing facilities. This is not something new. Our immigration officer would also work at Shenzhen Bay. Would that undermine one country, two systems? Boundary is part of national defense. I think this is incomprehensible. It's on your mind only. You are wearing tainted glasses, but you are undermining Hong Kong people's interest. And if co-location cannot be implemented, then when Hong Kong people get onto the train in West Kowloon Terminus, they have to disembark at Shenzhen for checking. This is absurd. So now you are proposing such an absurd arrangements for travelers on the XRL. This is totally unnecessary. I think the facilities would have to be built. Well, as to whether it can really operate, there may be a problem. So just let it lie idle, and then you will become a laughing stock of all. If passengers are really required to disembark at Shenzhen, do you think you can still get people's support? You have to shoulder this. You have to bear this political consequence because you have political bias. Can the central authorities say that for Shenzhen Bay, Hong Kong officers cannot work there, and they drive Hong Kong officers back to Hong Kong? That is unreasonable. Now, it would take only half an hour on the trip. So how can customs clearance be done? And how about authorization? If you now enter the mainland, they have their own boundaries. So how can the national defense authorize you anymore? Well, this is your suggestion. There are so many passengers going to the mainland every day, and I think these passengers will criticize you seriously. For members' views on the collocation of boundary control facilities, they can express their views freely. We will listen to their views, and if we think that certain views are worthy of consideration, we will definitely do that. I'm talking about the co-location of boundary crossing facilities, you should go ahead. These people are just making absurd remarks. You don't have to listen to them. Otherwise, you cannot make things good afterwards. These are their political bias. Well, we still have 7 minutes left, but 5 members want to ask questions. 2 minutes each. We may have to overrun a bit. Do you object to the meeting overrunning by several minutes? No? Priscilla Leung? Chairman, 2 minutes. I want to reiterate that when we look at the co-location issue, we just shouldn't just be thinking about Hong Kong. We should think about the mainland. They are a jurisdiction. They have to protect themselves. If you don't think about these things, then you're getting nowhere. There are different countries with different jurisdictions, and they can cooperate. I think Hong Kong people are just creating problems for their own selves. If you are talking about checking identities on the train, I think that's not acceptable. You should use the most convenient way. Look at the Vancouver arrangement. They have a counter. Even a vehicle can be an independent jurisdiction, so they send reliable boundary officers to do that. Why do they have to authorize Hong Kong to do that? So I think each party should be responsible for itself. It's totally feasible. It's very convenient. And legally, you do not have to implement mainland laws in Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong people really have to think twice. Why is there a delay? We have talked with mainland experts. We think that this is very easy. After the Occupy movement, well, this is not disputed. There are many more people that are not welcome. So they would have to think more carefully about the co-location arrangements. The two jurisdictions both find that there are things that they cannot accept. That's about the other jurisdiction. So don't just criticize all the time. The other side also has reservation. This is not against one country, two systems or the basic law. I've heard Christopher Chung's remarks. I think it's ridiculous. I think, well, when it comes to disaster, would it be the pro-establishment camp or the pan-democrats? People would know. Now, if we cannot implement co-location, then this project would become a snail-paced project. And because the pro-establishment camp is supporting this, that's why a lot of money are dumped into this project, no matter whether it's $100 or $200 billion. This is one possibility, and that's another possibility. The pro-establishment camp supports this, and so you are forcing the co-location arrangement on us. This will undermine one country, two systems, and we are paying for it. We are using a huge amount of money to undermine the basic law. And also, we have to assess whether we should stop losing money right now. If the government carries out an operation feasibility study now, then we will know how much more money we have to spend. And how much money have we spent so far? We have to be objective and rational. Do we want to continue with this project? The government really have to make this assessment. The Undersecretary has not answered me. Earlier this month, I sent you a letter about this. Will the Undersecretary answer me? Will you conduct an operation feasibility study at this moment? If you do not, then I think you are inclined towards the first or second direction. You will have to do it anyway. Even though you have to put in $100, $200 billion. You have to do it because you know you have enough votes at Electrical. This will be passed, and Hong Kong people would have no way out to stop this disastrous project from going on. Mr. Michael Tan, most of the Hong Kong people are very unhappy about the cost overrun, and they are more concerned about this than the commissioning date. Your past chairman, Mr. Ma, said that the existing fund can only last till the end of this month, and then in June you come for further funding, and then in October and November, do you think we would approve your funding application? Of course not. We won't do it right away. So according to Mr. Ma, you would have to stop or suspend your projects, and that will cause a huge problem. I think there are only two ways out. First, MTLCL, you would really have to remedy. Before Chow Tai-chung left, he sent an email. I have tried my best to find out the relevant challenges, but I failed totally. Dr. Wong, he's your predecessor, is what he said. So for this project, it has a lot to do with your project management. You cannot shirk your responsibility. You have to talk to the contractors. When I had such figures, well, you can rest assured that we will not approve your funding application. And also, if you can slow down the project a bit, then you may not need so much money. So when you seek funding from us, it may be easier. You have to think about this. Helena Wong. Mr. Chung was outrageous. Suddenly, he was pointing his fingers at Pan-Democrats. If there are no Pan-Democrats in this room, if everybody has become Christopher Chung, then we will become one country, one system, and we will have a very low degree of autonomy.
So we have to work very hard to defend one country, two systems. I have some questions. I hope that you can answer the question with regard to the Lin Cheung Road noise and also air pollution. Are there any mitigation measures, and also for barrier-free access? Is that feasible? I'll defer to Mr. Tang. First, on Lin Cheung Road, the arrangement is as follows. All right, Lin Cheung Road, is temporarily closed, but then in the future it will be underground. So there is no need for any noise barrier. On air pollution, the design of the station is that some 3.3 hectares of land will be greened. So when compared to the current planning, it would become better. With regard to the underground pass, well, as our colleagues have explained, technically it would be problematic, because if you want to have a direct connection to elements, then it will have to pass through some existing piles. We don't know where those piles will be. So the risk would be something that we are not able to undertake. That's why the current design is already the best. Well, on Lin Cheung Road, when would that become underground? Well, after Jordan Road South has been reinstated. Jordan Road North. So that's where the bus terminus is. All right, it will go directly into the tunnel. Yes. Next, Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. Just one more point. Well, in April last year, the administration wrote to the MTLCL, said that it's highly unlikely to provide additional injection into the XRL. So do you still maintain that stance? Just a simple answer, yes or no. Second, according to the MTLCL's annual report, if the MTLCL violates the entrustment agreement, then there would be a cap on the compensation to be paid by the MTLCL. Is that statement true? And what's the legal advice from the administration? So can you explain that? And third, on co-location of boundary control facilities, well, all of a sudden this council has become the DFJ, but then the administration has taken 5-7 years and still has not been able to come up with a solution. So I think the difficulty might be beyond imagination. So I hope that the administration can tell us what the difficulties are, so that we can all put our brains together to see if we can come up with a solution. Because it would mean whether or not it's going to be a cost-effective rail or it's going to be a snail-pace rail. So please do answer the questions. Under Secretary. Chairman, first let me answer the question on co-location of boundary control facilities. Well, we have been moving towards the direction, and we have been working towards achieving that target, and we've been considering different constitutional, political, and judicial or legal systems. Well, Mr. Wu asked about the difficulties. Well, if you were here listening to the remarks made by some members, you would have heard it. Well, some might be challenging this as a basic concept. So whether or not we can get the support from this council, it would show that there would be some difficulties. So there are difficulties. And also on the enforcement or implementation difficulties that has already been talked about just now. So I don't want to repeat them here. Well, let me can we get a brief reply? Is it possible or not? Chairman, on the first point, you said that there was a letter in April last year from the administration on the difficulties. I don't think I need to elaborate it here. I think it has been reflected from members' remarks already. And also on the MTRCL, well, under the EA, there are some requirements. And how would the administration act in accordance with the agreement so as to apportion the responsibility, and how would the cost be apportioned? So once the MTRCL can come up with an estimate, we will consider, and we will talk to you about that. I believe that for the co-location of boundary control facilities, I'm sure the administration can come up with a proposal, and then it's for us to decide, do we want the passengers to get off the train and then to get off the train with their package for immigration checks or whatever? So we will have to think about it. And also on the entire XRL project, once again, let me stress this, and I hope that the administration can consider this. All right, at present, the contractor can see that you have so much money put into the MTRCL, and also if you want them to speed up, then they will ask you to pay more. If you want to work overtime, if you want to work faster, of course they will try to ask you to pay more. So they would be watching to see if they can get more from you. So my advice is that well, we will have to at least set the bottom line. We will have to fix the sum. So you will have to sort it out with the MTRCL. All right, this is the final sum that I'm going to pay, and for the rest, you will have to foot the bill. So would the administration consider this suggestion so that taxpayers' money would not be spent? I believe that most of the contractors are good, but then there are still some unscrupulous few, and they would look at how much they can get and try to maximize that. Thank you, Chairman, for your comment. Okay. All right. So much for today's meeting. AOB, please note that the subcommittee will be going to the Admiralty Station for a site visit during peak hours. We look at the platform, and also the train and so on. So please, we will gather together at entrance 2 of the complex. The time is 6 p.m. Anything to raise under AOB? If not, then date of next meeting, 3rd of July, 10:45. All right, meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.